Great, welcome everybody. So glad you're here this afternoon. We are here today to talk about managing your library data. I am Maria Bernier, the Connecticut State Data Coordinator. My pronouns are she and her. And we have several presenters here today. Well, three counts as several. We're going to be hearing from, in their order of speaking, Emily Mills, who is the Youth Services Librarian at Cromwell Belden Public Library. Then we'll hear from Kate Byroade, the Library Director at Cragin Memorial Library in Colchester. And then from Pasquale Festa, the Circulation Librarian at North Haven Memorial Library. And everybody's going to have something different to share with us. So as I mentioned, please add your questions into the chat. We'll try and catch them as we go along. I think that is all of my housekeeping. Emily, I am going to turn this over to you to get us started, and I'm going to set my 15-minute timer right now. Over to you.
I have mine too. Hello, everyone. I am just going to share my screen briefly. Please excuse all of this data that I have, and please don't judge any small numbers. Cromwell is not the biggest library in our state. So most of what I will be showing in terms of how I track data for our library will be, there will be a focus on programming and also a focus on making everything easy so that filling out the state report at the end of the year is not challenging and we don't have to do a lot of math basically. So what I have up here right now, and I'll zoom in a little in case it's small for anyone, is I have our statistics that I tracked from fiscal year 2022. And basically what I have done here, and I'm happy to share this with anyone, I have a more updated version for next year, but what I have here is more specifically this area right here where we just track all of our program statistics. And then it filters in all of these numbers right here, which are just your typical like things you'd find in the state report: on-site programs versus off-site, age ranges. I have it split into children's, YA, and I track our generational and family programs. And then for me below too, I also have just my collection stats for children's and YA. This is because at Cromwell every month we collate all of these stats and give them to our director, Kara, to present to our commission and just to have. But this is my main sheet, and I have another one I will show you after. In terms of this sheet right here, it looks like a lot of work to keep, and honestly, it's really not. The way that I look at it is you put in a little like extra work once a year to up your sheet for the full year, and then it takes me 5 minutes once a month to put my statistics in. So the cool things about this, I have a blank one, are for programs. So I do a program. I'm really bad, as you can see, about putting the date in, but I will put in title, say it's another story time. And here I have drop down menus. So I can just pick the type of program that it is. I don't have to type anything in. I pick the age range. It's preschool, just before, it's 0 to 5. And then I say there were 7 participants, say. And I can tell you how to do drop down menus for that. That makes it easy. But the best part about this whole thing is as I put these statistics in on this side where it's my full statistics, it will add the number of programs and it auto calculates how many programs of each type and automatically sums up the statistics for participation for me. I hope I'm not going too fast. I'm sure Maria will tell me if I am. So it's basically set up. So every month I can do it throughout the month or at the end of the month, but I list all of my programs and just fill out these drop down menus and type in my numbers, and it will automatically add everything up for me. So I'm all set. And that's all I have to do, apart from just, moving over the circulation statistics too, which takes another 2 minutes. So I'm going to show you the rest of it, and then I can tell you about some of the actual formulas I use for anyone interested. And I'm also happy to email these out anytime. You can send me any questions after this. I'm happy to share my formulas, or not formulas, but my spreadsheets. I'm not going to keep them or anything. But yeah, so this is how I do our monthly statistics. And then I'm going to open up here. Actually, I'm going to switch this so that it shows up on one side. Don't mind me trying to be fancy. There we go. So over here, and I'll make it big for a second, I created our own version of the state report here, because obviously it changes every year. Maria updates it for it. So I just have our own that's based off of what it might look like, where I copy over the relevant questions that are not yes or no questions in our statistics keeping. So it's really not that extensive. We have just like the relevant numbers for service, these programming numbers I just showed you, and circulation things. And how I have it set up for myself and our adult services librarian is any number from that original spreadsheet I showed you, as I update it month to month, gets updated automatically in this spreadsheet. So I don't even need to touch this at all until I open it at the end of the year to look at my state report numbers. And what it also does, I'm going to move this since I'm sharing the whole screen, is I have one per month and it'll total automatically for us at the end. There's a really simple way to do this. And like I said, there's updates. So it's not perfect because I know like I'll have to make some changes for this annual report we're all working on right now, but it's minimal as opposed to every year going through every month, doing all this math, looking through 5 different spreadsheets and trying to figure it out. So I have it set up. So I have my one monthly spreadsheet that I just drop down all of the program stuff and it'll autofill in here. And then I can just have all of these numbers and make any minor changes for our state report that we need to at the end. So I do see how do you get it to update automatically from the other spreadsheet. I can show you that first. I had to remind myself how to do it since I only do it once a year, of course. But what I do is say I'm putting in something, we'll just use an ambiguous number, but I'm putting something into total weeks. So you just want to pick the cell that you're going to. And under data, the data tab right here, you're just going to click, you're actually not even going to do get data. I am thinking of a different method. You just want to click equal, and then you go over to your other spreadsheet, which is open, and click the cell you want. And then you just press enter, and it's going to have that right there. So even if this were like a 0, 1 right here, I could do equal right here, click this empty cell that's going to be filled eventually, press enter, and it's 0 for now until I put a number in there. And as you can see up here, it's just automatically saying we're pulling from this document, from this sheet on the document, from this cell specifically, which is super easy. And if I were to close and save these and reopen them, it would have the full, like it's coming from this drive on your computer. So one thing about this is we're lucky at Cromwell, we have like a shared drive that everyone's computers are attached to. So which is how like our adult services librarian Emma can put her stats in and I can put mine on our own computers, and it's a shared drive. So they all go to this document, which not everyone will have, but if you're the only person doing your stats and they're only on your computer, it should also still work fine. And I know a lot of us have shared drives too, because it's just super handy when you have a lot of people working. So that it's literally that simple. In terms of the formulas I use in this bigger sheet, in case anyone is interested in those, since I do still have 7 minutes, I am keeping track, Maria. Let me just drag. I'll move this out of the way. Okay. I basically use 3 main formulas. If you've never created a drop-down menu before, I'm sure many of you have, but in case you haven't, here's something without one. You can go to data. This is the boring part. Data validation right here. And you're basically saying, I want to make a list. And here you're just going to type in all of your different lists. So I'll show you what one of these looks like. Here we can look at the data validation here. So I have just typed in all the types of programs, no spaces in between, exactly how I want them: in-person on-site, in-person off-site, live, virtual, pre-recorded, self-directed. And so then it creates that drop-down menu. And if I needed, and I don't have to copy and paste that anything, I can just drag this down and it will fill all of these. Well, now it's auto-populating, but it will make it so that I have drop-down menus for all of these and I don't have to redo it over and over again. It's the same for these age ones as well. And then I think the cool part of this whole spreadsheet besides it auto-populating to our state report, which this is actually our first year functionally using this because I just created it for the last fiscal year. So super excited for how easy it's going to be. The auto-population is, there's two different ones. So there's counting and summation for adding up attendance. So all of these over here, you're going to use a formula called count if. And if we were doing a random one right here, I would just find it. Now I have to look it up. Oh, let's see. So sorry, I didn't set it up to be recently. Count if, here we go. So it's basically asking you to put in like the range of things that you're counting. So for me, I'm counting like all of the format ones. I'd say, oh, I'm counting all of this. And then I'll say if it says in person on site. And so it'll count every single program that's in person on site. And if I wanted to do more than one formula, as you can see here, this is a super complicated one. It's counting everything that's in person on site 0 to 5, in person on site 6 to 12, and in person on site 0 to 12. And it's counting all these programs right here for me. And the summation is just the same thing, but instead of count ifs, it's sum ifs. I'm so sorry. This is a lot of boring formula talk. Again, happy to send this out in an email or answer any questions since there's so much of it. But yeah, we found this really helps if I pull back up our state report spreadsheet. Like I said, I'm currently editing this for the next fiscal year, and all I'm going to have to do is modify the children's count since it's now split up 0 to 5, 6 to 11. And I'll just have to go through and change those. But it'll take me like at most some chunks of time for a day or two. And then it's just, again, 5 minutes every month to put my stats in. And I'm hoping when we get around to putting together our data for the state report this year, it's going to be pretty easy to just pull all of these totals at the end that are summed up. Oh my gosh, I'm going to finish early. I only have 3 minutes left, Maria. I'm trying to think of what else. Does anyone have anything like specifically they'd like to ask about this? I'm happy to answer questions early. I'm a fast talker, so I went more quickly than planned.
Emily, I'll bust in.
Yeah.
When you set up the original spreadsheet, each one, about how long did that take you for the initial setup?
It did not take too long, only because what I did is I keep blank. So I just set up this one blank one, and then I make 12 copies because you do have to pre-do like the months for every year in order to move it over to the state report. And bringing up the new one that I just did for the new fiscal year where I updated the programs, I realized it's easier to take out like what year it is in these bottom tabs. So it just says like June, May, July, because then you'll see in the state report, let's find a kids one. I can literally go in, and if I just have it July, all I need to do is change the fiscal year and make sure it's the same cell and everything, and it's set, which should be pretty easy. Let's see. Okay, I'm trying to read this whole question, fully get it. Can you drag and get the cells? Let's see. I'm going to be honest, I have not tested that out yet, as I took the terrible method the first time I made the state report where I typed in this formula every time and it was awful. And I only just in researching for this webinar discovered about the get data thing, but this is a webinar one, so we can test it out right now, actually, and see, we'll take this out. So this is our formula, and I don't believe you can auto-populate it because here's the thing, you need to change which sheet it's on. So it's on a different sheet for each month. Again, all that takes is I can literally, if I take one of these out, if I just change it to say August 22, it'll find a problem. I can copy and paste it over and change it, and it should work out okay. And be honest, even just the clicking over for the cells is a lot easier than the initial time that I did it for the first thing. So unfortunately, it doesn't auto-populate because it is being very specific as to like from this sheet, this cell. But again, the clicking back and forth, it's pretty easy to split your screen. And the whole point is like, I don't mind it taking a while to set it up because in the long term, it saves me time throughout the year when I want to work on programming and other things. And I just have to put in a couple of numbers and it's set. And then come around next year, I just set it up. So hopefully that answers it. I'm so sorry it doesn't auto-populate. This is the other thing, I guess, that I just want to say that's important is all of this that I've done. I just had an idea like, how can I make this easier? And I just did a ton of Googling to figure out what formulas I needed to make it do what I wanted it to do. So just because like initially it doesn't auto-populate doesn't mean that you can't look up and find a way for it to do it that maybe I just don't know about. I'm not like an Excel genius. This really was a lot of librarian Googling to be like, it must be able to count and add these things for me. How can I do that? Ah, that's my timer. The end.
Thank you so much, Emily. That was fabulous. And I did put Emily's email address into the chat if you want to track her down. She will be happy to share her spreadsheets with you. She said that, so be in touch with her. Or if it's more efficient, I can always email them out. We can figure that part out too. But thank you so much, Emily. And we are going to move over to Kate Byroade. I'm going to let you share your screen, Kate.
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. If my 7th and 8th grade math teachers knew that I was a statistics nerd in my 50s, they would just fall over dead. So I was a classic math phobic, proto librarian in my youth, and but I fortunately had training in Lotus 1, 2, 3 back in the early 90s, and I discovered spreadsheets, and I learned I did not personally have to know 7 times 8 reliably anymore. This burden was taken away from me, and I could just, as long as I understood mathematical concepts, I could make Excel spreadsheets work for me. And so I became a stats person when I was a circ manager a long time ago, and I've continued to do them throughout my career. So I've done a lot of the same things that Emily's done for a lot of the same reasons, but I'm going to show you sort of my structure of how I do things. So here's, first of all, just this is my statistics folder. You can see I've built it for every single year. I have, can people see this pretty clearly? I keep a lot of stats going. If I click into my 2021, you see I have a folder for each month. They file numerically. I have some workbooks that I use throughout the year. And that's how I structure my files. If you go into a month, you see that I have the Byroade report that I run, an iCode 1 report, and I'll show you what that looks like. Item type circ, some reports that kick out of our system. I track non-resident registrations and non-resident renewals, card renewals, discards, print statistics, they all end up here. So that's how I structure and save a lot of things. And then I'm going to show you my my workbook. So this is my workbook for the 2020-2021 year, and this is how I get my cumulative stats for the report to Maria. So this whole workbook, I do monthly stats, and then they are set to automatically filter in from the monthly spreadsheets. And so I've broken out books and serials, audio, video, all other items, the electronic books, the downloadable audio, and I come up with with numbers. And you can see down here, I have a check because I arrive at these numbers 2 different ways and I want to make sure that they always agree so I can catch errors. And every now and then there's like a 7 or a 1 and I'm like, how did that happen? So that's what I do there with this report. I also want to show you this circ by subgroups. I get into some of the detailed stats. So we genrefied our picture book collection about a decade ago, and I've been tracking those genres ever since. We use these numbers to inform our purchasing of picture books. And you know, some of these numbers are really large because the category itself is large. You know, stories, which is sort of the general place where picture books that don't fit any of the other genres end up. Favorites, however, is just huge. You know, we have, you know, those favorite characters, favorite authors in that section. Fairy tales, we know, are just not popular, which gives us, you know, permission to not buy that latest, most gorgeously illustrated picture book of a classic fairy tale. And I do this for our graphic novels, our board games. We break out adult fiction by genre. And so I see how we use that. Magazines filter in automatically from other parts of this workbook, as do video recordings. And years ago, I managed to get the consortium to give me a statistical field for Dewey Decimal ranges by the hundreds. And so I kick out monthly stats very easily for my Deweys, and it confirms everything I've known since I was a page as a teenager, like which Dewey numbers are the most popular. But I have it here and I can explain it and I can back it up, and it gives me really great numbers. So we break out biographies separately here. So I showed those, I collect them here too. So I don't think, you know, nobody's gonna be surprised that 600s are the biggest, followed closely by 300s and 700s, and then 900s and biographies. So everything you always knew, I can confirm with my numbers. So let me stop this one. And then I'm going to show you just some of the nitty gritty of, let's see, raw circulation. Okay. So I get a report out of our system of item circulation, which is the sort of the gross number, but then there's things that don't come out of the system, like cost per circ. That's my IndieFlix and great courses. So they go in here because they are part of my legitimate circulation. And you'll see I have 2 categories over here: the town category, which is the number I report out locally, and then the statistical category for the state report. And you'll see Maria will recognize that. So books and serials. And the reason I do that is because what I do is I take the completed report when I've entered the data. So here's my overdrive, my ebooks. And then I do so let's see, these are, here we go. Here's a month. I did do this back in August of 2021. Why is this showing me blank? Okay, here we go. November 2021, this is accurate. So this is November of 2021. These are all the numbers and that looks great. And then I use a pivot table. If you don't know how to use a pivot table, this is like the most magical thing that Excel does. And I am happy to walk you through it, or look it up, Google it. How do I make a pivot table? So what I do is this gives me the state statistical report. It takes all of those state statistical categories and sums them up. And then I do a separate one for the town. I maybe don't, like somebody who's really elegant could probably get them both on the same sheet and all this other wonderful stuff. I just make the sheet as I go. And that's what I then take, and I'm gonna stop share for this and go into another one. And okay, good, I have 5 minutes left. And then my master workbook here. So I take that town spreadsheet and put all those numbers in here. This is a brand new workbook, and you can see so I'm very concerned here about demonstrating workload. So this service desk statistics in the upper left corner, I have items loaned, I have items returned, reference questions, interlibrary loans borrowed, interlibrary loans loaned, library cards issued, library cards renewed, because all of those things require staff contact of some sort or another. This is not the circulation number, because the circulation number is the items loaned, but it is a total service desk activity, and each one of those has a human interaction component. So I need to be able to justify that I have library assistants and this is their workload. Over here I have community statistics, meeting room uses, volunteers, days open, door count. I have program statistics, I have technical services statistics, and then I have sort of the breakdown by type of item. I had a slightly different format and I changed it recently to reflect print, electronic, and media and miscellaneous. So that was a change I made a few years ago. And then in the rest of this workbook, I do things, I have my door count, so I put in my raw count. My door goes both ways, so people come in and out that door, so I have it. And then I have actually studied this. Our door count or undercounts 20%, so I add 20% back in. I put in the date, how many days we were open, and then we have another door that doesn't have a door counter in it. And so I've got a conservative estimate of 15 people a day use that door, and that gets me a total for the month. Cassie is our electronic, our system for print management and session management. So I track all of these things. When I got here, there was no session management, there was no print management, and so people abused printing and didn't pay for sheets. So I was able to put in the software and demonstrate that, you know, people were canceling jobs, that they were paying for their printing, the sessions, and then the users. There's a great new software product out there called Who-Fi that's on the web, and that's giving me Wi-Fi stats that I can now report to Maria. They also have a community calendar section that gets me programming stats. That's really good. I'm evangelical about it. So again, if you're interested in that software, I could talk to you about it. Here's my electronic circulation, reference statistics by the 2 desks. Some holds information that I get out of the reports from our system, interlibrary loan, and I accumulate all of this over the course of the year, just like Emily. I accumulate it so it's ready to go. I track things like volunteers, the program stuff. This, you see general interest programs, adult, teen. This is really what I report to the town. This is the town report, not the state report that I give to Maria, because Maria has more detailed questions than the state does. Maria has more detailed questions than the town does.
Kate, you're at just under 3 minutes now. 3 minutes.
Okay, great. And so then I have this master, and it accumulates over. I do some tracking over the course of the year. This one needs to be updated. So I have just built this portfolio of spreadsheets. And I'm just trying to think, I'll bring up the electronic stats one real quick. And that'll probably be the last one that I'll show. But it does mean that if I'm asked for a question, if I'm asked a question, I can pretty readily come up with an answer. Sorry. I lost the big screen, so share. Here's the electronic stats one. So here's the master. I get the loans. And then that feeds into that monthly circulation report that I do. And so I have lots of blanks. So if people are kind of building their statistics from scratch, I'm happy to send you what I have, explain how I use it. But I can answer questions really readily. And I see that there's a question. Who5 program counts attendance? Yes, they do. Yeah. So that's it. And my timer just went off.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Kate.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm gonna stop spotlighting you and I'm gonna start spotlighting Pasquale, who is up next. Over to you.
Hello all. I'm going to share my screen right now. And what I'm going to show you is what's called Power BI. I hope everyone can see my main screen right here, which is just a title page. A lot of you may not have never heard of it. This might be the first time you're hearing of Power BI. What it is business intelligence software that Microsoft develops. It's free, which is the greatest part about it. You can get it easily from the Microsoft Store. Just search for Power BI Desktop. There are two out there. There's one called Power BI. That's actually not what you want. You want Power BI Desktop. And what it allows you to do is take all the statistics that you have and turn them into data visualizations. So if you're already working in Excel and you're comfortable with Excel and you kind of want to take all of those big tables you have and turn them into stories to try to find out what your data is actually telling you, or to try to show data to someone else and convince them of something that you're seeing, it's a really good tool for that. So the reasons you would want it, or I've already gone over how to get it, but the advantage of this over Excel, in my opinion, is one, that storytelling aspect. Two, it is updatable. If you start it and you create a spreadsheet and you want to track over time, you can just keep adding to that spreadsheet and the visualizations will keep updating based on that new information. Another pro, and I'm just going to go over the pros before I jump into it all, is it can be pretty impressive sometimes looking. If you're going to a board or you're going to the town and you want to show them some pretty pictures to go along with your numbers, it helps out with that really well. And the main reason I like it, and I'm coming back to being a librarian, I've come back to libraries in the past year and a half, is because I worked as a marketing analyst for the last 8 years. And a lot of my job was having to dig into hard numbers and go and work with people who really aren't data nerds like myself and have to convince them of things. And I needed to communicate to them what I was seeing. And there's nothing better than a graph to do that. So what I'm going to show you right now is a monthly statistics dashboard I built for the last fiscal year, 2020 to 2021. All of the data you're going to see here is what's come from our state report. So that's everything that we've given to the state. You do have to do some work in rearranging the data to make it work in here, but the things that you can do with it are pretty impressive and they can really help. So the first thing we have here are our monthly registrations, going from July 2020 all the way to June 2021. You can now, a very nice thing is tracking things like big events. So for instance, right here, you'll see this line going up and down in the middle. That's the exact time that we reopened to the public. All of the data before here is representing when we were closed and everything was being done remotely, grab and goes, but patrons were not allowed in the building. At this point, we started allowing patrons in the building, and it's really interesting because you can see clear jumps in some of the things, like the children's registration absolutely just skyrocketing after that. You can very nicely set up filters so that you can take smaller looks at individual months and see the raw numbers of how many people registered in a month, but also see how that makes up the percentage wise. You can take 2 months and put them next to each other to easily compare. I will apologize, I cannot remove that line. It has to stay there because it's not an actual function. I played around to get that there. But it as you can see, you can kind of get a story of what is going on here, and you can most definitely see the impact of reopening to the public and how important that was for creating new registrations. You can pull things like your circulation numbers, and you can easily put, with some work, you can put that in there, and you can start tracking your audiobooks, your books, your large books, and seeing, rather than just having a sheer number of 3,503 books for June of 2021, you can see how that stacks up against all of your other materials that you're giving out. You can also see, we'll take June 2021 again because that's what we were looking at. You can then drill down to June 2021, and you can see that regular books make up 67% of everything that you searched for the month, and things like movies, DVDs making. So it lets you know, gives you an idea of the things but it just gives you proof of, a lot of this is really helping with gut feelings, and I think that that's a good thing. You can even go and say this is just doing it by sheer raw number count. You can also go and then elongate it to say, all right, well, show me how things make up of 100%, and it will change it for you. You can even then go and drill down further by just looking at books and what's going on with books throughout the year, what's going on with video, children's circulation, and all of that. Now, this one dashboard is very bar chart heavy, but this program does allow you to make a number of different visualizations. You can create line charts, you can create pie charts, donut charts, you can create maps, and it's all handled by going in and taking your data, which comes right from Excel. So you don't need anything special. You can save Excel spreadsheets or CSV files and import it in there, and it will let you turn on and off data, and then it will automatically put it on the screen for you and allow you to pick the type of visualization you want. And then you can do things such as filter it, you can move the axis. So it gives you a lot of leeway into how you want to visualize that data. Why would you, if you're really good at Excel and you already are using, say, the graphing functions in Excel, the chart functions, I think there's pivot charts, which I also like using for one-offs. I would say that the thing that's really nice about this is all of this can also then be, you can do things like add in text boxes. You can add in, it has a function to give a narrative based on what it's seeing. Book circulations increased X% over the last 6-month period, and it will tell you that just from reading your data for you. And things like that, then you can lay it out in here, lay it out on a page size, and export it straight to a PDF. You can throw in your logo. And so if you're, say, putting together a report for your town because you want to ask for increases in funding, or for your board of directors because you want to illustrate what's going on, it kind of really makes that easy. And then you don't have to go and copy and paste a bunch of different charts and resize them that you have to do in Excel. So there's also, it's just a layout situation that is much better. It's on top of that, it's interactive. So if you do want to drill down and say, just take a look at 1 month and see what that made up out of the whole, you can do that. You can just hover over data and get more information. But what going back to the whole idea of storytelling, is what it's really good for is trying to take all the data that you have and come up with new questions, answer questions, and then also come up with new questions. A couple of examples of the ways I would see this as being a good supplement to the data that you're already getting, having to give to the state, is such things as, we have recently ourselves just gotten a door counter, and now I am doing the statistics on the door counter. I don't have it here, but I've already taken those statistics, reorganized them, and put them into here. And it's allowed me to basically map out the traffic during each hour of the day for each day of the week. And it really lets you know if, let's say, you're having scheduling problems or staff shortages, and one group of staff is saying, hey, like, we need more people, and another group is saying we don't have anything to do. You can go and you can actually look and you can see when are your periods of time when people aren't coming in. Now, again, you probably know this by your gut, but having it in seeing it there and having that proof is really helpful. And there are some things that you might not really know, and you'll see from it. For instance, when we first reopened, we were hand counting everyone that was coming in, just because we wanted to give everyone about, like a 15-minute window or a half-hour window, and it was a soft opening of the library. And at that time, I was finding every week Monday was our busiest day. Now that we got the door counter, I went and I looked at the last 3 months, and lo and behold, Thursday morning today, surprisingly today, not today, but today, Thursday, is pretty much on average, almost all the time, the busiest day of the week, especially in the morning, in between the hours of 11 a.m. and around 2 p.m. So then you can start looking at how you want to staff. When do you want more people on certain desks? When do you want to, say, make breaks available? When do you want to schedule lunches, things like that? And it sounds small, but it's really helpful. It's really helpful. I don't have the door count data with me right now. We actually just got the door counter a couple months ago, and I'm now just feeling okay with playing with it. But it actually ends up looking, what I did use was I have so many things on my screen. I ended up using
Pasquale, I'm gonna bust in and tell you you've got 3 minutes right now, but 3 minutes.
That's right on time with my my thing. I don't have the door stat data with me. I will say that for the visualization I went with, I decided to use it is lagging a bit because I have Zoom up, was using line charts. That way I was able to basically overlay everything, and you can see a very clear, drop in patrons coming in from about 3 o'clock onwards, no matter what day. But it was nice because you can see the days stacked up and down, and you can also clearly see that, and you can move it around too, which is fun. But I'll actually piggyback off of what Emily said before. Even though as a data analyst for almost 10 years, I learned this all on my own. Googling was how I figured out how to do things. And I will say, especially with this, YouTube is your best friend. There are plenty of data nerds out there that are passionate about business analytics, and they will show you how to do things in this program on YouTube, and they'll do it for free. There are plenty of books you could take out on it. There is a learning curve, but if you're looking to really add things that would, if you want to go beyond just providing numbers and you want to build stories that would allow you to persuade people to see your points of view on things that you want to accomplish and why you want to accomplish them, it's a really powerful tool for that. So you might want to just consider it for that reason. And like everyone else, I'm available for questions if you have them. I'm totally willing to answer any questions you might have about Power BI. But yeah, I hope you appreciate it. And I see I have 55 seconds left.
You do. Thank you, Pasquale. That was really wonderful. I'm gonna go ahead and stop spotlighting you as well, in case anybody wants to ask some questions. We're getting great comments. And there was a question in the chat interested about what's the busiest day across all libraries in Connecticut. Kate thinks that's the first day open after July 4th weekend, which is very cool. All right, now I'm going to start sharing my screen as well, because I want to show you what the directors and your board of trustees might see. So this is an example of the report that my local library's board of trustees gets. And you can see they're getting monthly stats. So the type of data that all of our presenters are capturing by month gets presented to the board. This was the most recent month, May. Then we had the previous month, then a year ago and 2 years ago. And they added 2 years ago in the context of the pandemic because everything changed and they were looking for some history. But you can see here, some of these questions tie directly into the annual report in terms of days open, circulation. They're getting the big picture numbers, their electronic circulation, but also looking at computer use in various departments. This is how they count reference transactions in various departments. They're reporting on programs in those departments as well, and volunteers. So this is really fabulous information that the board is seeing every single month. And not that they necessarily take action on this or make a lot of questions about it, but they're able to see the trends over time because we're getting the same month for the past couple of years. And they're also able to see how things are flowing from month to month. So that's how you can translate all of those fabulous Excel spreadsheets again into something that you can push out in different ways, whether it's your annual report or whether it's your report to your board of directors. So I'm going to stop sharing that while we're here. Hopefully, if this computer will let me. Great. And I'm going to keep an eye on the chat. Okay. I'm not seeing a lot of questions in the chat. So I am going to ask our presenters some questions. We heard that you do a lot of your own research online, YouTube, Google, test it out. I want to remind everybody that these are all homegrown products that we saw today using free software, Excel and Power BI desktop, as Pasquale said. So I guess I want to ask you guys about your process. Like, do you just play around? Do you say it should do this? How do I figure it out? Like, how do you learn that the software has a feature that you want to exploit? Like, are you looking at somebody else's spreadsheet or dashboard? How does that work? And I will let anybody chime in who wants to talk about that.
So like I said, I started out so long ago. It was Lotus 123. You know, and then the next job I went to had Excel, and I started with that. I'm married to a math major, an IT professional. And like I said, I was like math phobic, math incompetent, failed math classes on the regular. So I'll talk to my husband and I'll go, honey, what about, I want to, and you know, I do this sort of like flapping around thing. And he says, oh, you just use this. And it's like, and then, you know, as I've gained confidence over the years, and Google really does help. Like, if you can figure out the question, you'll get a lot of good responses, and there will be like YouTube tutorials, there will be simple explanations. Very often the official like Microsoft help will come up if it's an Excel question. And I'll go to that, and that'll kind of get me started, but very often it's sort of written in like Microsoft Ease. And I'll look around, and you know, there'll be user forums and places like that. And you know, and I'll ask other people, and I've also had a couple of times when I have. So in 2016, we had 2016, 2017, 2017, we had, it was right at the end of the fiscal year in May of 2017, the hard drive on our brand new hard drive, on our brand new server for the library, fried. And the IT guy at the time for the town said, oh, you know, it was brand new, so I didn't pay for the backup. So I've lost years and years of data. So I had to kind of build things from scratch again. And then this past year, I started having some just flinky problems with these sheets that I'd reused and reused and reused. So I decided to build them from scratch, blank. So like my color coding got much more consistent. It looks prettier now. I got rid of some things that, you know, I was tracking, like never needed to do anything with. So that's my history.
I guess to follow up on that, mine basically started off as a if you can dream it, you can do it kind of thing, which is very similar to what Kate's saying. That initial spreadsheet I showed that had all of the just the program statistics and all of my children's and teen stuff. I used to have that same spreadsheet, but I would just do the math myself. And I think it was after 1 year working on the annual report, and I was like, there must be an easier way to do this so that I do not have to do as much work. Not out of just like laziness and stuff, but like I have other things I could do instead of spending a full day doing math. And there's human error too. So I just started looking up different, I like tried searching different things, and then it goes to exactly what Kate said. Like you may have the wrong type of question, but if you start with that, you'll figure out what the right question is to get the information you want. And you may test the wrong formula, but there might still be one. And if it's not workable, then I'll just figure out a way around it, or just I have to cave on that one thing. But a lot of it is simple stuff that we're technologically advanced enough that I was like, there must be a way to do some of these things.
For me, it really, let's turn my mic back down. For me, it's like I said, I'm coming back to libraries after being in the data analytics field for a long time. So if I see if I see a grid of numbers, a really nice organized grid of numbers, I know that there's a story in there, and I kind of want to see what it is. So that's how I really ended up using data visualizations a lot, because it does that for you. So it's kind of just inquisitiveness of, well, we have these numbers, so what can I tell from these numbers? On top of that, having to run the stats for circulation has really helped me get a better grasp of running reports in the catalog, in the library management software in Sierra that we use. And if you can learn to run a query, to put queries together, and to put the exports together in there, that is a really powerful tool for answering questions, particularly because it puts the data out in a somewhat Power BI friendly format in the way it has it. It's like very cleanly, everything is in its own fields. You do have to do some cleaning, but for the most part, it's in a field that's absolutely perfect for this type of work. So knowing that, it kind of just became inquisitiveness. You know, how many, not only can you do what the door counter says, you could also say, how many checkouts do I have every day? And then not only how many checkouts, but how many checkouts at each terminal do I have every day? And so you can, you know, children's is going to have a different busy period than adults in terms of, so you might have to shift, you know, workers between those two departments, because the simple fact is parents are coming in with their children after work, and then that after school, and then that's why they're busy in the afternoon, but retirees are coming in the morning, and it helps you just answer those questions. And the nice thing about it is, if you're scared of Excel and you don't like formulas and things, it's a WYSIWYG, or what you see is what you get, visual interface. So you don't have to really learn coding to to be able to put something together that's useful and helpful.
Excellent. And I've been seeing in the chat, there are some requests for sample sheets, blank, or even with the data filled in. So I appreciate you guys being willing to share those. I have put all three of our presenters' email address into the chat so you can track them down however you like, and utilize their skills as we go. I am so grateful. I'm going to give you guys another minute to type something in the chat, but I'm really grateful to all of our presenters for being here and for being willing to share this information with us and talk about what they're doing and how they're maintaining their own data. And what I love is that you're all capturing more than what I ask you for in the annual report. You are all looking for something more informative and more indicative of the work that your librarians are doing. You know, Kate, where you're tracking actual workload for your staff is really incredible. So that's part of what I say in all of my annual report webinars is reminding you guys that what you send me is just the tip of the iceberg for the annual report, and what you can capture for yourselves is far more than that and really shows impact and the full breadth of what your library is doing. So I'm really glad that everybody, all of our presenters showed that off. So I appreciate that. And we're getting lots of thanks in the chat, which sounds to me like we have answered everybody's questions here today. Yeah, so far. So thank you so much all for being here. Really appreciate your time. I'm going to send everybody an email at about 4 o'clock today with a link to where you can find this recording on our YouTube channel, as well as an evaluation form. We love to hear what you think about our webinars, what was good, what we could fix for next time, and what maybe we could offer in addition for another webinar. So I hope to hear from you in the evaluation. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you again another time. Take care. Bye-bye now.